as the state religion of the Roman Empire. By the time Christianity matured, it offered one God and a grand vision of faith. The Romans, meanwhile, ruled a vast empire but lacked a deity acceptable to all its diverse peoples. Searching for a spiritual bond to unify their realm, they saw the potential in Christianity. That was the main reason Rome embraced it. The Romans brought political unity, the Greeks cultural and intellectual harmony, and Christianity a shared religious spirit. Christianity freed Rome from the chokehold of nationalism, making it possible, for the first time in history, for different races and nations to unite, at least in name, under one faith. It arrived with vibrant encouragement and liberating power for a spiritually starving people whose language had no word for selflessness. The strength of Christianity shone through its believers' lives of service. Ordinary individuals, fueled by an inner resolve, were ready to suffer and even die for their faith, as countless examples from the early persecutions showed. The teaching of Christ's love for children swiftly ended the widespread practice of abandoning unwanted infants. Early Christian worship borrowed heavily from the Jewish synagogue, blended with Mithraic rituals, and later adorned with pagan splendor. The backbone of the early church was Greek converts who had embraced Christianity. The 2nd century AD was the most fertile time in world history for a religion to spread. Christianity welcomed the emperor, and later, the emperor welcomed Christianity. Religious freedom, widespread travel, and open thought created a golden age for a new faith to flourish. Yet, the spiritual boost from adopting Christian values came too late to reverse Rome's moral decline or counter the decay already taking hold. Christianity was a cultural necessity for imperial Rome, but it's deeply regrettable that it didn't become a broader path to spiritual salvation. Even a good religion couldn't shield the empire from collapse, which was caused by internal defects such as citizens' lack of voice in governance, crushing taxes and corrupt collection, an imbalanced trade which drained the gold to the east, an obsession with entertainment, and soon a state church, which became so institutionalized that it almost became spiritually barren. Things were different in Alexandria. Its early schools preserved much of Jesus' teachings free from compromise, producing great Christian leaders, which became known as church fathers. While some of his ideals were sacrificed to build Christianity, it's only fair to note that by the late 2nd century, nearly every major thinker in the Greco-Roman world had become Christian. This intellectual triumph transformed millions of lives within generations, lifting them from pagan gods to a sincere pursuit of truth, especially in Asia Minor and Syria. A vivid tale, The 7 Sleepers of Ephesus, captures this shift beautifully. The Roman Empire endured long enough to secure Christianity's survival, even as it crumbled. Yet we often wonder what might have happened if Rome and the world had embraced Jesus' pure message, the gospel of the kingdom, instead of the Hellenized version of Christianity. In 310, Emperor Constantine converted to Christianity, giving the Roman government a major role in shaping the church. Emperors influenced the organization of councils and their agendas. By the late 4th century, the New Testament canon took shape, fostering a unified message across the empire. When pressure from northern tribes grew too great, the Roman Empire split in 395, largely along the line where Latin met Greek. Much of Rome's knowledge and power shifted to Constantinople. In 410, the Visigoths sacked Rome, marking the end of the Western Roman Empire's dominance. The Eastern, or Byzantine Empire, held strong, leaving a lasting mark on the growth of Orthodox and Roman Catholic Christianity. Under Emperor Justinian, a master of governance through meticulous administration, Christianity solidified in the Levant. For him, the faith was both a unifying force and a tool to Christianize peoples. But the empire's strength waned with the bubonic plague, which, over 50 years of outbreaks, slashed Europe and Asia's population by over 30%, leaving vast territories vulnerable to rising Arab tribes. The church's power grew, but in the early centuries, it wasn't yet centered in Rome. Rome's bishops held a prominent role but were officially equal to those in Constantinople, Alexandria, Antioch, and Jerusalem. The rise of Islam diminished the influence of these eastern centers, while Rome quietly grew into Europe's new power hub. Though the Great Schism formally occurred in 1054, its roots lay in Rome's resurgence and the weakening of the Greco-Roman Empire.